Good afternoon. So it is a beautiful Saturday in the middle of hurricane season, and today we're headed off to the Pharmacy Museum in downtown New Orleans. The Pharmacy Museum is located on Chartres Street. It is open from 12 till 5 on Saturdays, and admission is $10 for your average adult and $7 for senior citizens. Joseph and I have been to the Pharmacy Museum before. We really enjoyed it. We highly recommend that if you're a fan of the macabre, that you consider visiting the Pharmacy Museum. And as Joseph just said, the tour is what really makes it, so make sure you have some cash on hand so you can tip. So let's jump in the car and head on out, guys. One of our stops along the way is at the Westwego Shrimp Lot. So we are on the Westbank. I grew up on the Westbank, and I've always been interested in this place. For the longest time, it used to be these little wooden shacks where you could get seafood, but now they've really kind of expanded it into these really cute little buildings. So I'm looking forward to checking this place out. So what this is for the most part is a bunch of seafood places. Some of it is raw, you would cook it yourself at home, and some of it is prepared but you would eat it elsewhere. And despite growing up on the West Bank, we never really went out here. My mom says years ago this used to be a bayou, and that the boats would pull up and unload here, which makes sense. I mean, the best way to get the freshest seafood is by selling it and buying it directly from the boats themselves. And I guess over time it's kind of grown up into something else. So for this strip here, there's not a lot of places where you can eat in. You would mostly pick up. Kind of surprised there's not more tables and stuff. Maybe that's something that they do during non-COVID times. As you can see, even on a hot Saturday afternoon, you got a lot of people out shopping and picking up and buying. But I think we're heading to the back towards Segnette Landing, which is right on the harbor. They've got all the boats out there. But see, this place looks cute, and they got some tables and stuff, so I wouldn't mind checking this out on another day. But we do have places to be, so can't quite explore everything just yet. I know, aren't those cool?
Yeah, it's like really dense.
Well, I have a feeling that is always wet.
Yeah, well that's why we put up the knees.
Yeah. Alright, so I got the shrimp remoulade, and it was really good, and Joseph got the couchon. It's not really a burger, it's like pulled pork. Tell us about the couchon.
It's very smoky, very tender.
What is couchon?
It's a pig that's been slow roasted over a fire pit for at least 10 hours.
Yeah,
I don't know how long it takes. I'm sure it depends on the size of your pig.
It's a big deal. I've never had it like in its intended form, but it's like a party, it's like a graduation, wedding, like a big child's christening, like a big deal food. So it's becoming more common in restaurants around here, though.
I've had it at a church group before, but I've never had it at
a restaurant,
like a graduation or anything.
Sure,
yeah,
me
I've had it
either.
at restaurants.
All right, thanks. Whew, that was good. Well worth eating. So while we were sitting out on the porch, we kept noticing all these fish jumping. I'm pretty sure those are Asian carp. And we also saw an alligator, although I don't see the gator anymore, but you guys can see the fish jumping. It's really peaceful out here. You get the breeze, you hear the animals. Oh, look y'all, look. That's a young one. So thing about gators is every year they are alive, they grow another foot, approximately. And the little ones are a favorite food of the big ones. With the exception of mama gators, who are very protective of their children. But look, he's just chilling out, eating something. I think gators are kind of cute. They're dangerous though. Don't keep them as pets and don't be feeding them. So apparently Westwego has a historical museum that we're gonna have to check out sometime. That sounds pretty cool. Some of these houses are so cute. If you are ever in Westwego, and I do recommend you check Westwego out, you guys ought to check out Segnette Landing. It's at the back of the crawfish thing, that's the name I forgot. But anyway, this place was really worth checking out. It was really pretty dang delicious. Okay, so we are just outside of the Pharmacy Museum. We did manage to find a parking spot. Let me warn you guys, if you're not from New Orleans, if you think you're gonna street park, think again, because you're not. You might as well pony up the money for a parking lot space or to park in one of the garages, because I promise you, you are not gonna street park. So unfortunately, due to COVID, they're not doing any of the tours, which is a huge shame because the tours are so cool. I hope they do bring that back in the future, but there you go. There's the Pharmacy Museum. Whoa, got run off the sidewalk there. If you're interested in learning more about this, there is Victorian and Edwardian pharmacy produced by the BBC, and while that was in Britain, there's a lot of stuff that's the same. What I think is really, really cool is honestly all the old pharmacy cases. You just don't really see stuff like this. This was from back in the day when you would go to a store and you basically sit and they would grab what you needed. And this is an old soda fountain. Back when it was made from bicarbonate rather than doing, oh snap, sorry. Rather than adding the carbon dioxide to the water, you would use like baking soda to get that kind of fizz. This kind of reminds me of the Computer Science Museum, the old till, because that's an early example of like a calculating and an adding machine. cases are beautiful. I wish I had something like this for my art supplies.
What art supplies are you going to show?
All of them. You kidding?
The hoard.
Oh, baby bottles with the number. That's pretty cool. They even have stuff for kiddos with pocket powers. What? You found a frog? Is it an on-purpose frog or a... Oh, he's cute. Look at that guy. The woodwork in here is really gorgeous too. Upstairs is like, or they may have changed it, but it's like a whole exhibit on women's health, and which has been neglected through the ages. And Devin, they do actually have a set up operating room and natal care, stuff like that. Not much has changed in so many years, and there's not really a good excuse for why we haven't made any progress in women's health. That's what I was just complaining about. Definitely begs the infomercial question. There has to be a better way, but I guess there's just not enough money in it. Historic New Orleans building though. See, when people talk about Louisiana, you get all these different cultures in Louisiana, all these different styles of architecture, all these little pockets of different life. And if you've ever wondered why there are blue glasses and dark brown glasses, it's because sunlight is really detrimental to all kinds of things, including medication. Breaking the law, breaking the law. So there isn't a description for this thing. This thing's really cool. What we think this is basically an automatic scale where you dial in the weights and it'll put tension on one of the two plates so that you can get exactly what you need. Of course, if any of you guys know better, let me know in the comments, but that would be great for stuff where you don't really want to be fiddling around with it a whole, like say, arsenic. What is your favorite part of the Pharmacy Museum?
I don't know. There's a very eclectic range of things. The history is pretty cool, so getting an idea of just how all this stuff is used and everything. You mean which room is my favorite, which section, which item?
Any of those.
I think probably the main room
downstairs
is my favorite. Although I do remember there being a lot more bloodletting stuff the first time.
And I remember there was more stuff with radiation and using irradiated particles for health and beauty. Yeah. That might be upstairs. One more, and that's closed off right now. They might be redoing that. But
yeah,
that was cool.
Downstairs, while it's a little less curated, just has some really wacky, fun things to look at. The curated things here, like the eyeglass exhibit and everything like that. I mean, it's all really cool, and it's very well put together, thought out, and has good descriptions and things. But as far as just what's the most engaging, I think probably downstairs. Reading about some of the birthing stuff is pretty cool too.
What's disappointing is some of those things have not changed in a really long time. There's still a pretty high infant mortality rate in the U.S. for a variety of reasons, including some doctors not listening to mothers when they say they're in pain or suffering from depression.
So we're in the final room of the Pharmacy Museum, at least what is open right now. So we've seen everything at least a little bit. What do you think?
Everything that's open.
Yeah.
Today.
What was your favorite part of the museum, Becca?
So we were just talking about how in the past it felt like they had more stuff from the radium age, because during like the 20s and the 30s people thought of radium as like this vitality cure-all. And I mean, obviously we know now it's not, but that used to be my favorite part because it's just really interesting to me. We're right on the cusp of modern science, but we're still making some really bad decisions. So my favorite current part, oh gosh, because I also really liked the tours when they did the tours, and that's also kind of a bummer. They're not doing the tours, because the tours are really cool.
Yeah, we're talking about what's here.
Yeah, I
what's
know,
not here.
I'm like trying to think. Oh, gee. I don't know, I've always been a fan of dioramas set up to show how things actually were, how life was back then. I think it gives a really good idea of how people live their lives. And this would have been an upper middle class to fairly rich person's ability. Like, when you're poor, you don't have the ability to be an invalid. That's a luxury, you know? So this is definitely a luxurious thing to be able to be an invalid, to have other people dedicated to your care, to spend all this money on expensive treatments, and to have all this specialty equipment at your disposal. But I still think it's really interesting to see how we care for the sick, and how that kind of just stays
a lot of
the
wartime
same.
care things in the museum. So there's a lot of wartime care things in the museum.
In this one, I didn't see that much. Well, honestly,
maybe you weren't reading as much, but it seemed like every other thing I read was like this came about.
That's when we have a lot of innovation, typically, because you have all this destruction that needs to be ameliorated as much as possible. On that note, though, the D-Day Museum has some really great medical display, or they used to have some really great medical displays as well. So I guess this room, where it's set up with period accurate furniture and medicines, is probably my favorite current display in the museum.
You recommend you stop by?
Yeah, I still recommend you stop by. I just wish the tours were going on. So I know this is a bit of modern science, but here they're talking about yellow fever, cholera, and malaria, and quinine was one of the main treatments for that, but preventative treatment was really important too. And even back in the day, they knew to have mosquito netting around beds and sometimes on windows. So one of the things I'm kind of like about is I feel like this canopy bed, the whole point of having a canopy is for the mosquito netting. And I don't see any mosquito netting. So I'm kind of like, where's the mosquito netting? Okay, so that was our visit to the Pharmacy Museum. It's about $10 to get in unless you're a student, a military member, or a senior citizen, in which case it would be $7. They are no longer doing the tours at this time due to COVID, probably because it means a group of people kind of bunch up real close to one another. And they are open from 12 to 4, but they're not going to chase you out if you take a little bit longer. We took a little bit longer. And I think their third floor is closed right now. I'm pretty sure they used to have a third floor. But anyway, I think it is a wonderful place in New Orleans to visit. I would recommend you go ahead and pay for parking rather than trying to find parking on the street. And it's a great way to do something that is uniquely Louisiana, uniquely New Orleans, that isn't just like stupidly touristy and, you know, spending all your time drinking hurricanes. It says open. Ooh, they've got all kinds of... Look at all the gummy candies, Mom.
No.
That's like your weakness.
Only some of them.
So lucky to catch that. So that's part of a wedding celebration. You don't really necessarily do that out in the parishes, but I think it's really cool that they do that down here. Are these all used books?
Yes.
Okay, well that...
This place looks 100% more organized than when I came here 10 years ago.
Nice. It puts me in mind of the shop that my other husband ran. Really, his assistant ran it. Schottenjäger.
Oh, sure.
Gabriel Knight.
Yeah.
That's up to you.
What'd you find? Pretty cool. Ooh, those are beautiful.
So what I'm not too hot on is there's all these like dancing art.
That's cool too, though. It's
all right.
Showing kimonos reimagined for other cultures, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, but like really, I just like and the fold outs and stuff.
So Crescent City Books is a used bookstore that also sells prints. Joseph went here a few years ago. What'd you think?
Like I said, I thought it was very nice. I'm like 80% sure this is the bookstore that I went to.
I think I went here with you.
He said that there were 3 others.
Yeah, I might have gone to one of the others.
Yeah, so I told him it looks much nicer and much more organized.
It does. You can find stuff.
Space.
You used to not be able to find anything.
There's more space in between the shelves.
Yeah. I don't feel like having a panic attack anymore.
Better. There aren't like things stacked to the ceiling.
The prints are well displayed and mounted. It's not such a scavenger hunt.
It's well air conditioned.
Yeah.
I think it's a little warm last time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a nice shop. I mean, I found some cool stuff.
You sure did. All right, thanks. And then at the end of the street, you can actually, you can actually see the cathedral if you look closely. Having grown up Catholic, I'm actually really not one for touring churches. But if you enjoy beautiful things and you don't carry my baggage, you might find it well worth your time.